every real horror fan has had at least one experience of feeling out of place when compared with quote-unquote mainstream society, but I don't think there's ever been a really good attempt to understand why it is that people like horror. Like, most horror fans are generally normal people who have pretty good reasons for enjoying horror, but what are those reasons? The real reasons, not the ones they learn to tell people to make society leave them alone. That's what our podcast is about, interviewing people in the horror biz to find out what it is about horror that makes them happy. My name's Steve, and I'm a bit of a psychology buff, and my co-host is my friend Chris, who's a bit of a horror buff. And so far, we've interviewed about 70 people in the biz and had a lot of fun with it and wanted to share with you some of the highlights. In this set of excerpts, we're going to just share some of the fun stuff. If you want to hear the real meat of the conversations, come check us out on Apple, Google, Spotify, or you can just use the player on our website. In this set of excerpts, we're talking to Sarah Langan, author of The Missing, Audrey's Door and Good Neighbors, Lucky McKee, director of May, Tales of Halloween and the Woman, and Dan Chase, co-host of the Cut to the Chase, Skeleton Crew, and Rabbit and Red podcasts.
This is kind of fun. Thank you for giving me my time to talk about myself.
Sure.
We were in Florida on a family vacation, and my parents had gone out to get food, and my brother and I were watching Dracula. Maybe this is all the Dracula, and I was so freaked out. And a blackout happened as this is the craziest story. Why am I telling this story? Where I had been, you know how little kids will shave their legs? Like my girls, they'll find a razor and they'll be like, oh, I decided to shave my legs, Mom. And I'm like, don't do that. You're just little. So I had cut myself with a razor and I was bleeding and there was a blackout and I was so freaked out that Dracula was going to come and kill me. So that time, and my parents came back, and I was bawling, so upset. And and there was this tissue, and razor cuts bleed a lot, and so I had a box of tissues, and I was it just didn't stop bleeding. I kept putting more tissues on it, and it wouldn't stop bleeding, and I was like, oh my god, it's like a beacon. So I dreamed I was on an island, surrounded by monsters on the island, but they were monsters I can control. And then off the island, if I tried to swim off the island, were murderous monsters. Oh. So I couldn't figure out. So I had to get along with the monsters I was with. And then I also had to figure out how to get off the island. And I never figured it out.
And that was a recurring dream. You kept coming back to this island?
Yep. And I was it became more and more friendly, the monsters on the island, but the monsters, I was how am I going to get you guys off the island too? How do we get out of here?
How do you feel about your family?
Yeah.
see, that is exactly where Steve is the psychology half of the show and I'm the horror half of the show, because my mind immediately goes to, it sounds like a combination of Where the Wild Things Are and the Island of Dr. Moreau, and Steve's just you're trying to escape your family. The island is your family.
Serious question. How do you feel about your family?
I feel they've been incredibly supportive of me. Mm-hmm. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten closer to them. No, it's funny. I mean, obviously there's some stuff. That was my dream.
Favorite costume?
I was a witch every year.
Okay. Consistency. That works.
People were you're a witch again? I was I just like this.
I'm surprised for someone who, during the pre-call, mentioned being a fan of chaos. Yeah. Having the consistency of being a witch every year.
Well, here's the thing. Chaos can't make plans.
I was thinking that as I was saying it. Just wait until the last minute and then, I guess I'll just be a witch.
Yeah, no, I don't even understand. My husband will have these intricate costumes and he'll have spent all this time and I'm where did you find the time? How does that even work when you planned your costume?
You're right.
We're right on the lake, and apparently once a year it's when all of the bugs hatch off the lake and fly to the light. And so we were there and you couldn't see inside the cabin. You couldn't see past your hand.
Wow.
Because there were so many flies. Gnats, little ones. And I was so completely freaked out. And, now we're supposed to turn out all the lights. Like, how are we supposed to get rid of them? And I was bawling. And I remember my dad being like, what's the matter with you? And I was like,
they're just bugs. Yeah, but they're everywhere.
Yeah. And I was like, that's so clear that that's not the answer I'm supposed to give.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, I'm homesick. I want to go home.
Good answer.
Yeah.
You mentioned that was also inside the cabin?
Yeah, no, they all we'd had the windows open.
Oh.
And we didn't know, and I don't know if we were out or we didn't figure it out fast enough, or they all hatched at the same time. But inside the house, just full, you couldn't see your hand for all the bugs.
Wow.
And they took a vote. Like, I remember the teacher saying, and she wouldn't do it now. I mean, they were all good people. It's just horror was so hated at the time for whatever reason that the teacher said, who thinks Sarah should take the horror out of this? And the class all raised their hands.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, you think in my personality, I'm going to this is just a challenge for me.
Right? Like, so you're all against me. Good.
Yeah. This is exactly what I needed to hear. So, so they were very much against it.
I guess the most terrifying thing about being a teenager is trying to connect with a girl.
Yeah, that one comes up a few times.
Up the nerve to express feelings, and then getting rejected, and then all of a sudden, hooking up with somebody who you had no idea had any kind of feelings for you, and just the bizarre landscape of being a really awkward, nerdy kid trying to find some sort of romance at that age was pretty comical when you think back on it, but horrifying when you're experiencing it.
Mm. Any lasting fears?
Well, I told you about the car thing. I'm still not good in a car. Lasting fears that go back to childhood and teenage years, you mean?
Well, I was jokingly referring to, this part about connecting with a girl, but if you want to broaden the question, that's fine too.
No, I'm married now. I'm good on that front. when you get married, you realize that this huge weight is suddenly lifted on your shoulder. It's like, oh man, okay, that's sorted.
Yeah, I caught that in the fact that, like you said, it's it's this terrifying, most important thing in the world when it's happening. But then you meet the random person who is the one who's just like, what the fuck am I worried about?
Yeah. And in my case, it was a person that I'd been working with for 9 years before we ever even got together. We were just really good friends, and I respected her as an illustrator, and she did a bunch of illustrating for my movies and stuff. And 9 years later, after that, we were just sitting closer to each other on the couch one night, and now we're married and have a kid and all that stuff. That's kind of amazing. Oh man, yeah. Well, that's why I loved those comics when I was a kid. I mean, there's this one issue of Hulk that I think about all the time about Bruce's abusive father and stuff like that just made such a deep impression on me, and it was so visceral and scary, and this is a comic book.
Yeah.
Really, I still think about that comic, I still think about the impression that made on me at a young age, and that's what was special about the Marvel stuff when we were kids, was that they would get into Spider-Man's buddy wigged out on angel dust and jumped off. I mean, it's holy shit. Or Wolverine, or the Punisher, or the stuff that they were dealing with in those books was very, very serious stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And all that stuff just gets kind of glossed over now, and it's unfortunate. I think that if the superhero thing is going to continue to have legs, they're going to have to start telling more human and relatable stories.
Right.
The Wicked Witch, her green skin, and just her whole thing was really scary to me. And those monkeys, man, those
it's always the monkeys.
Goddamn,
they're not terrifying.
Yeah, and just so many of the ideas presented in that film. I actually think that The Wizard of Oz is a fantastic gateway to a young mind for horror.
What ideas?
Just that idea of evil, that evil witch that's out to get you, it taps right, just like Baum was tapping into the Grimm's fairy tales and all that kind of stuff, which are just a part of the human experience at this point, telling stories around the campfire. Okay. So that's obviously where horror began. And I think that fairy tales are, also cautionary tales, which I think a lot of horror movies really are. it's so much easier to just be a nice person, you know?
It takes less effort to not be a dick.
You know, like, and there's just some miserable people out there that they don't understand. I've worked with a lot of people like this, so they just don't understand that. I've had a lot of people kind of accuse me of being full of shit because, like, you know, when I'm directing, I'm like really happy and really excited and really jazzed about what I'm doing.
And I think you're faking it.
Yeah, it's got to be fake. No one is ever that happy intentionally.
Yeah, but you come across people, actors or people that have kind of been in the business a long time and have been to great heights, and they're very, very jaded. They don't understand. I don't know. They think you're being fake if you're being excited about stuff, you know. And there is a lot of people that are like fake excited about things in Hollywood and are really just out to move themselves up a ladder or whatever, you know. But when you remove competitiveness and when you remove competition from the equation, you remove ego from the equation, and you realize that you're very, very privileged to be working in this beautiful collaborative art, you know, and it's not all about you. You can get to some really good places creatively when you leave yourself open. And a lot of that just starts with just being a good, kind person. You know? Right. It's not that hard, folks. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
My favorite costume ever was a a Rambo mask, a Sylvester Stallone mask. It had the curly hair, it had the bandana. It legit looked like Stallone. Like, I loved it. I would wear that thing all the time. But then, yeah.
Why was that one your favorite?
It looked exactly like him. I don't know. It was easy to put on. It had obviously that nasty ass latex smell on the inside and stuff like that. But I equate that smell to this day to good memories because it just takes me right back. When I talk about it, right, that gives people an open invitation to then talk about it like it just happened like last year. Like, no, it's been quite a long time, but...
Well, there's also a difference between talking about it and trying to use it as a weapon against you.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And
there's helpful discussion, and then there's that.
Right. Yeah. And I've noticed that that's just one of those things in life that I'm always going to have to deal with. But again, I welcome that shit because, like, you're talking to the one that's 24 years old, man. I talk to me now, and like, I guarantee you'll be like talking to a completely different person. So I love when people underestimate me. That's fantastic because that way, you know, nothing but up. When Hostel came out, that shook me.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably one of the scariest movies ever because that could truly happen.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. My friend and I went to Europe, and we're like, I mean, in retrospect, it was something like 1,000 or 1,500 kilometers, I'll use their terms, away. But just looking at it on a map, I'm like, dude, we are right next to Bratislava. We are not going there.
Exactly. Why don't they put Johnny Depp as Freddy Krueger? First of all, he's Mr. Makeup, right? And he could do it, and that obviously brings it back to the OG original movie too. I always thought Johnny Depp would be a fantastic Freddy Krueger.
Now that you say that, I could see that.
Right?
I just made 3 levels of shocked faces as you were describing that. like Vince McMahon over here. Jesus.
With the eyes glowing.
Yes. And also, yes, because it would bring it back to the first one. Holy shit, Johnny Depp is Freddy Krueger. Let's make this happen now.
Yes. I just love that movie, though. It's so much fun. It's
Freddy Scissorhands.
Yes. See? Yeah, he knows how to work the claw. Exactly, dude.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I think maybe a previous guest did mention this one. Is he a writer that goes out to some... Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I will explain this in the way that I explain everything else by simile to something else.
Casserole?
Yeah, right. No, it's you seen The Dark Half?
Yes.
Steve?
Yeah, I think he was asking.
I know he was, but I was like, thank God he knows about The Dark Half. A lot of bad shit happens in life, and I feel like the stronger I am with those things, then I'm more apt to kind of deal with them in a way where it won't be, destructive to myself or anybody else, or.
Do
do you think that doubling down has never paid off in the negative for you, or do you just think you've been lucky in those terms?
Oh, I've been wrong a bunch of times. Like I'll swing and miss, but I constantly adjust. Like if I try something and it goes horribly wrong, like, okay, won't do that again. I'm a quick fucking learner, like I just don't do that again. And again, just double down on what you know. I think life is constantly making adjustments. Take this one down to 60, move this one up.
Okay, so doubling down on what you know is a good qualifier, because that's what I was thinking is, I'm imagining someone hearing this and going, okay, I'll double down on everything, and then they end up dead. It's there could be a bad payoff on doing that.
It depends on what we're talking about specifically. We could talk about 10 different things, and I could probably give you a different answer on all of them. But I do think the common thread is mainly what I'm talking about is just hard work. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
All right. So without having met me previously, what are your thoughts on me? Just like if you were to describe me in 2 sentences without using the term obnoxious.
All right, I'll go first.
Damn it.
Because I've got that one.
Sure. Go, Chris, go ahead.
Down to have a beer with you sometime. It would last hours. Those are my 2 sentences.
Yes. The beer would not get touched because you guys would both be talking too
like
much.
it would just sit there the whole time.
So yeah, come check us out over at horrormakeshappy.com or check out some of our other excerpts until you find someone whose interview you do want to hear.